Welcome to Epicenter, the hub of innovation in the heart of Helsinki, where ideas come to life and creativity thrives, where innovation meets community. Get ready to learn, network, and make an impact. Let's go.
Let's give a little round of applause for that video. Hi, everyone. You know what makes me so happy is that there are people sitting in the seats and not everyone migrated back. It's perfect for the intimate conversation that we're going to have today. So thank you for showing us your faces and being ready to engage. We have a tradition here at Epicenter that makes me feel good about myself. We take the first 10 seconds of every community event and we clap for you, but also for me. So if we could, this sets the ease of everyone. We're going to feel calm and relaxed, but it's also going to make you feel like you can engage with me and with everyone else on stage. So we're ready to do that. Take the first 10 seconds and please hoop, holler, yell, scream, do whatever you can. Go, please, go. Woo! I see you. You got to clap too. There we are. Awesome. Okay, so as many of you know, I am Joey. I'm the community manager here at Epicenter Helsinki, and I'm so happy to see so many familiar faces, but also so many new faces. We are a community and a meeting arena for local change makers to accelerate their growth and innovate with impact. Epicenter stands not as just a hub, but a testament to the power of community. Communities are more than just people in proximity, right? They are network, shared ideas, dreams, and aspirations that drive us forward. So welcome to Hired. This is a monthly series here at Epicenter where we've covered topics like DEIB, employer branding, Finland's talent shortage, and so much more. But tonight we are going to discuss the importance of affirming authenticity, and we will shine a light on the appreciation, integration, and recognition of the LGBTQIA+ community within professional environments. We'll start with a keynote address that will delve into the nuances of fostering authentic workplaces, especially concerning the LGBTQIA+ community. Then this will pave the way for a panel discussion where we explore the multifaceted challenges and opportunities presented to the LGBTQIA community in professional settings. And then we have a little bit of a treat after that. How does that sound? Good, you see? We clapped for each other, now you get to whoop and holler at me and then I feel good. That little part of my American soul gets to scream, USA, USA inside. Okay, so if you haven't attended community events before, you know that I'm absolutely shit at last names. So we'll all be on a first name basis, right? I am Joey, and the first speaker that we're gonna bring today is, I've jumped ahead of myself. So, in today's dynamic professional environment, it is paramount to recognize that our workplaces are more than just hubs of productivity. They serve as meeting points where personal and professional identities interact, coexist, and that sometimes confront one another. A look at Finland's queer workforce paints a pretty telling picture. Startingly, how was that word? I wrote this too. Unfortunately, let's go with that one. Only 8% of Finns who identify as LGBTQIA+ are open about their identity at work. This number isn't just a statistic, it is a reflection of the lived experiences of many individuals who feel the need to hide a part of who they are. This is not just a missed opportunity for authenticity, but a call to action for businesses and communities to do better. Our first speaker has more than 20 years of experience in human resources and is also a qualified career and leadership coach. She has lived and worked in a number of countries and held HR positions within the financial services, transportation, and consultancy sectors. She holds an MBA from London Business School and an MA in English and French from the University of Helsinki, in addition to her coaching qualifications. Her focus in her strategic HR work is to help create an environment of inclusion where everyone feels they belong and that they can fully realize their potential. All of that mouthful is perfect stuff, right? For the first speaker for today. So please help me welcome to the stage Katariina, who's the country HR director for Finland of EY.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Nice to
And
see you.
this is yours.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, wow, that was a mouthful, but it sounded like me, so I think we're off to a good start. And thank you so much for having me here. I got to know Joey and Epicenter because EY was actually officeless over the summer months. We left our previous premises and we're waiting to move into our new premises on Korkeavuoren Katu, which we did last week. So this served as a wonderful hub for us. And one of the things that I really appreciated was getting to know people like you and exchanging ideas on topics that are important to all of us. But what I wanted to do today is not to give you the corporate slides on DE and I, but actually talk about my personal journey when it comes to LGBTQI plus inclusion. And the journey starts here. Back in 2019, I had just started at EY, and I realized that we were sponsors of Helsinki Pride. And to my joy, my twin sister, pictured there, happened to be in town. She lives in London. And I thought, hey, let's all go together and experience Helsinki Pride. I'd never been to a Pride march before. Obviously, my twin, belonging to the community, she's a lesbian, had been through them all in London, Brighton, and so on and so forth. And off we went, and I have to say that I had an extreme feeling of pride in my employer for taking this step, and this was the first year that EY decided to be an official sponsor of Pride. And for the first time, I realized that even though I had lived with my twin sister, and back in 2019, we were probably 45 years old, so do the math, I've got a big one coming up next year. I'd lived with her, we'd grown up in the same family, we'd had the same education, we'd been to the same schools, the same classes even. We had the same friends, and yet my experience was so different to her experience. But yet, in 45 years, I'd never really thought that this was my issue. And at the end of the Pride parade, and actually the party in the park, after several glasses of wine, my sister turned to me and said, this has been the best ever Pride. And I'm like, really? Like, you've been to London and Brighton? And she said, yeah, because you were here. And it really hit home to me how important it is to be an ally, to try and understand other person's experiences, because they will be different to yours. And actually, if you have a role and a platform where you can do something about this, then use it. So that's where my journey started. Now, those of you who know the Big Four consultancies, and especially in the Nordics, they have a bit of a reputation of being a little bit on the conservative side. Starting from the dress sense, starting from kind of how you express yourself in the workplace. And this is kind of something that I was faced with when I then took on the HR director role for EY Finland, and that was at the beginning of 2020. And I didn't want the Pride sponsorship just to be a marketing ploy for us, and I wanted us to really kind of grasp this topic with both hands and do something meaningful. But of course, all the reactions weren't completely positive, to put it this way. I heard things like, well, what's this going to do to our clients? Like, are we going to lose client work over this? Or it's not really our role to take a stance in these sorts of things. And luckily, like, there was something burning inside of me, and I was quite taken aback by the comments, but I sort of didn't let that stop the development that was about to unfold. And I'm going to share some top tips as well if you're thinking about where you work and the organizations that you work in, no matter how small or how large. I think we can all play a part. And one of those top tips is that kind of don't go it alone. So what I then did in 2020 is I actually identified the ambassador group at EY that had been first mobilized the year before. And these were people, some people belonging to the community, others were allies, but everybody was united by the wish to be somehow involved. So we'd mapped out and gathered that group. The other thing that I did is I actually hired a consultant to work with me on this because I felt a little insecure and unsure of what would be the best way to do this. And luckily, I was put in touch with a lady called Emma Jelly from Jellyworks, and it was brilliant brainstorming with her, and we came up with a whole program for that year, which meant that we weren't just scratching the surface, we were really starting to talk about all sorts of issues and doing all sorts of training for it. But the last thing to note about this is the word role models. And very, very conveniently in 2020, the Pride theme was role models. And I realized I was starting to ask around, and coming from London, I lived in London for 18 years, it wasn't hard to find people in the companies that I worked with who were openly belonging to the LGBTQI plus community. But coming to Finland, suddenly there's like a wall of silence, and nobody dares to sort of say if they think somebody belongs to the community. So I had a really hard time identifying people, and I identified one person, and I thought I'd go sort of via the HRBP just to sort of double check. And she's like, yeah, but no. Like, don't do it, don't approach, not a good idea. And that just really struck me that there's something here in the culture that isn't allowing us to talk about these things and for people to be kind of openly themselves in the workplace. However, I then contacted somebody that I know in my network, a very well-known person in Finland, and I asked him to come along to our launch event, which was then streamed online. And I said, you are going to be our role model because I really can't identify anybody inside EY. And he then said, well, I know loads of people at EY who belong to the community. And actually, he was able to persuade one other person to join us for this panel discussion. And I think that was, like, if you think about the really significant moments, that would have been one, when somebody in the organization feels comfortable to share their experience, their thoughts, and show the way. So of course, after this event, I had loads of contacts from different people who said, hey, that was awesome, never been done. I belong to the community, I want to be involved, like, what can we do? So the ice was broken in 2020. This is just a quick look at how comprehensive our offering was during the Pride Week, starting from the terminology, starting from how to have kind of more difficult conversations, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole range. I'm not going to go into this in detail, but just to show you what it was like. But me being me, I always kind of want to push things one step further. And one thing that I got actually as feedback from the Helsinki Pride community chairperson at the time, and he said to me, it's all well and good that you're doing this, but what really matters is top management commitment. Obviously, he didn't count me as top management, but that's another story. And I'm like, okay, that's true. Like our CMP, our country managing partner, is very supportive, but nobody knows that. Like he hasn't talked about this publicly or internally. So then we were actually part of the Working with Pride Day that year, and held several panels actually to talk about different aspects of the Pride Week. And I was really proud of our country managing partner that he opened up the day with a very touching speech. So these things do matter. People notice who's not there or who's not kind of opening their mouths. But I also think that we all need to have kind of our own reason and our why for doing it, so that, you know, Joey, you mentioned the word authentic. That it cannot be something that we just put on for a show because it sounds good and looks good. We really need to believe in it and want to kind of foster it. So then a couple of other pictures from 2021. And this is when, because of the corona restrictions, we had to rethink the whole Pride March party, what are we doing? And we started to have our own picnics, which was another great way to get the community together and start to hear ideas as well. So we're not alone in some ivory tower thinking about what people might want, but we're actually getting people involved and hearing directly from them. And I kind of really like the idea, the sort of the multidisciplinary approach to these things, which all of this art is demonstrating today. That's kind of how we've been thinking about it as well. It's not only educational sessions, it's not only, you know, your town hall meetings, but it's something that that involves all the senses and gets people together in different contexts. So I think we're up to 2022, and talking about sparring partners and working with people. We had a new appointment at EY Nordics with our Nordic DE&I leader, Åsa Granstad. And her and I then started to collaborate extremely closely to take some of the work that we'd done in EY Finland and make it Nordic. And again, kind of working with the Pride community, we had heard that networks are a great way to offer a safe space and to kind of get the conversation going. So thanks to Åsa's great work, we were able to set up a Nordic Unity network with participants from all of our countries. But what did prove to be a little bit more difficult was finding a sponsoring partner for this. And when I say sponsoring partner, I mean at the partner level in a partnership. And it took us a while. It actually took us a year. But in this year, we were able to have our first Nordic sponsoring partner who is extremely happy to be taken on the role. So I think that's quite significant when you think about the top management buy-in. The other thing that we kind of did Nordic-wise is all the education and the training. And also we sort of decided that, you know, Pride and LGBTQI plus education and themes isn't just the one day or the 1 week, but we want to do this kind of all year round and build on it. So in 2022, we started to have one-off days, Nordic Rainbow Day, when we had a session on allyship, for example, and making sure that we are working with the theme all throughout the year. Which then brings me to this year, and you know, where have we gone to so far? So by now we have got the sessions are a standard, but I think that the topics are getting much more sort of sophisticated and into more of the detail. So we're kind of past the, let's talk about unconscious bias, and we're really into more intricate areas, such as, for example, the talk on minority stress, which I think everybody should hear and listen to. A very, very powerful account of what kind of stress these everyday experiences can engender in minority groups. So our education is getting more refined as our curiosity is growing. And going back to the sort of the multidisciplinary and multisensory approach, we then decided that after all these years of virtual events, we wanted to do something that gathers people together. So again, not so much of the town hall discussions and formal educational sessions. We actually decided to have a Pride movie night. And I firmly believe that gathering 50 people at keynote to watch the Girls movie did more for inclusion than like 5 sessions, training sessions could have done. Really provoking feelings, provoking discussion, and bringing people together in a new way. And also we had an after-work event where Joey and Christian crashed accidentally. It happened to be walking past, and we had our EY house band there performing. So again, bringing the different arts into the equation. So I think that's pretty much our journey over the last 4 years at EY. And to summarize, hopefully, what I have just been talking about, I think it's really important for any human being, any individual or any team or any organization to really find their why, of why are they doing this work to create a better environment and make it their own. Because anything bland, anything that you've borrowed from another company, it is really not going to fly and not going to resonate. Then you really need to find your people. And this is a reference to finding like-minded people, finding different people. I mean, one of the most significant conversations that I ever had was with an extremely critical person who kept me on the phone for an hour debating the merits of one word, which was equity. And actually, I learned so much from that conversation and from him. So it is about, not just having the nice conversations and not just having conversations with people that you get on with and like, but really being able to exchange difficult thoughts and to kind of make it a better place as a result. Then finding your way, so one size does not fit all. So you can expect to please everybody. And I think after the first year, the feedback was, too many sessions or too many calendar invites or things like that. And then you kind of go more concentrated, which was better. But then, somebody's always going to critique something, but don't let that stop you. Find your way and keep innovating and experimenting to really sort of find what works for your organization. And lastly, most importantly, which has been my kind of biggest learning from this, is even though I thought I knew quite a bit about DE&I in organizations after my 20 years in HR, I did not, and I still don't, and I'm still sort of a little bit insecure about all the things I don't know or the words that I use. And I get it wrong, but the main thing is that I really am curious. I really think that it's all of our job to keep learning and to stay curious, and to learn more and do things better. So, with that, I think I will finish off this section. But thank you for listening.
Let's give a huge round of applause. Katariina is going to join us for the panel, so if you'd like to take a seat, yes. I will invite our next person up. Okay, so to round out the panel, I'd like to introduce an educator and trainer with over 20 years experience in the public, private, and higher ed sectors. As a gay immigrant father, including an autistic son, he envisions a world where inclusion can encompass overlapping identities. He is currently working on inclusive meditation and human rights work with Crisis Management Center Finland, partnering with neurodiversity in business, and collaborating with other NGOs to bring this vision to reality. So please help me welcome Jeremy, who's the founder of RepresentINQ.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both so much for being here. So, despite Finland's reputation as a stronghold of progress, we recognize that there's always room to grow, especially when it comes to authentic representation and inclusion in our professional sectors. So I'm so thankful to have you both here joining for this discussion. In recent years, Finland has witnessed an increasingly number of companies and organizations adopting diversity and inclusion policies. Yet a gap remains between policy and practice, between intent and actual lived experience. I know I've mentioned this earlier, but it bears mentioning again. Considering that a mere 8% of our LGBTQIA plus compatriots feel comfortable being out at work, I'm prompted to ask why. What are the barriers, spoken or unspoken, that stand in the way? And importantly, how can we catalyze change so that we will discuss, that's what we're going to discuss during the panel. That was reading too much of the cue card there. But I want to start here, and we're going to kind of take this in three different sections. So I want to start with the barriers. Why do you believe the number of people who are out at work remains so low in a country known for its progressive values?
Well, I think for me, a lot of this has to do with making choices about how much do you really want to make yourself vulnerable at work. Because all of us are trying to sort of set a certain impression of ourselves. And I know I can't speak to the experience of everyone, but as a gay man, you grow up a lot of times with a lot of doubt about your masculinity, about the way you present. So it feels really quite scary and risky to tell, especially other men, that you're gay. Will that end your socializing opportunities? It might help you with that next promotion. Will you not be included? And you know, for me, actually, I came out professionally only about a year ago because someone I was working with directly said, "Oh, there's Pride next week. You're against those people, right?" And I thought, well, I, as a father of 5 kids, can easily pass this straight, shockingly, despite my shirt that I'm wearing today. And people, you know, generally just assume things about me that aren't true. So I had a decision to make, like, well, I have this privilege that I'm masculine presenting and this person is talking to me and they feel safe to be homophobic with me. So I'm gonna take a risk and tell them actually I'm homosexual. And I was very worried. I was a contractor. I thought I'm gonna lose a lot of business here. And instead what happened was the founder of the company actually affirmed after I posted on LinkedIn about this, that they were supportive of the LGBTQ community. And that message from the top really then filtered down. So I learned a lot through that experience. But I mean, the barriers are because there are genuine risks.
Katariina, I see some head shaking there.
Yeah, I was nodding mostly. And I was thinking about the cultural aspect. And I noticed it moving from London to Finland, and I'd been away for all of my working life and came to Finland, and I somehow kind of picked up this code of you just don't talk about personal things at work. So I think there is a sort of higher privacy level in Finland, and talking to people about this actually, I found, in fact, talking to the role model who came out at EY. He was saying that, you know, he's never experienced any discrimination, and you know, lots of people knew that he was gay, but also lots of people never asked him about his weekend and how it was. So it wasn't like there was a overt different kind of treatment, but it's kind of the same things that are unsaid that then brought the difference in. But I do think there's a cultural difference in what is considered appropriate to talk about at work in some cases.
Can I challenge the cultural aspect of it? Because, I have worked in now Finland for 2 years and have been invited to several bridal showers and baby showers of colleagues, right? And so that is talking about one's personal life. I have to then know that they have had romantic relations with their husband to produce, said baby. Is it just that we don't talk about queer things in the workspace?
Yeah. And I think it depends on the person as well. But I think it's also other topics. We were talking to somebody at work, and they had some caring responsibilities with elderly parents, and really didn't feel comfortable about sharing that. So I think it really depends on the person as well, and the work culture in any particular organization.
Yeah, I also kind of understand that my story is very privileged. I had a very easy coming out, didn't lose any friends, didn't lose any family, and have been out of the closet professionally my whole entire career, which I know is not normal. So this doesn't represent everyone. So for this discussion, I just want to talk a bit about what we think, and maybe you can, since you're so freshly out professionally, what were some of the fears that you felt? What prevents? I guess what I'm wanting to do is sort of lay the foundation so that there's an understanding of these are the fears that that we in the community sort of deal with when not wanting to live authentically. So what were some fears that you or that anyone in the community would sort of feel?
I think that there are definitely fears, like I said, about your public reputation. Not that people necessarily think bad things about all gay people, but will they start talking to you differently in some way? Will they start asking you very personal questions, which sometimes happens, because people get curious about things. And again, I think for me, because I was working as a contractor, a freelancer, would I lose clients? Which is the same question businesses ask themselves when, should I be an ally, right? Will we lose clients? Will we lose money? And one of the things I'm always trying to point out is that the changes you make in making your culture more authentic and more inclusive, it helps the people who have to take care of people. It helps the people who maybe have a disability of some other type. All these policies can help anyone at any time. You don't know if your loved one will get in a car accident and you suddenly need time off. So authenticity is a value that translates into many different groups. I think the unique thing about being queer is that because we're outside the norm of what most people experience in life, they just don't have a way to understand it. We don't have those role models, especially those of us like me who are like middle-aged or older. We didn't grow up with queer role models to look at as like, this is a successful gay person. And so to step out and to try to be that person, to be that role model is really terrifying, to be honest. But I also think really, really important.
Yeah. And I've heard people have fears about things like promotion. So what will this do to my career? And then there's also maybe the fatigue of needing to come out many times. So it's every time you make that decision to divulge, it's yet another opportunity for something traumatic to potentially happen. So those are the things that I've heard from our community members.
Right. So now that we've sort of established what could be some barriers or fears, we know that there's tons of research that proves that companies with a diverse workforce tend to outperform their peers that don't have such as great representation. So how have you seen LGBTQIA plus inclusion specifically enhance productivity and financial outcomes in companies where stronger queer representation is present?
And I think we can all experience that if we feel like we can be ourselves and we can bring our whole self to work, that we are much more engaged, we're more loyal, we are feeling more creative because we have that feeling of psychological safety which I think is at the foundation of everything, everything in a well-functioning organization. So it's clear that it is a great thing, and I also think that we can all relate to some aspect of difference, and you know, for me, it's going to be something completely different to the next person. But if we are talking about these things in different aspects of difference, even if I didn't myself belong to the LGBTQI plus community, just the fact that people are being open-minded and supportive and kind of capitalizing on differences rather than thinking that that's something that takes away from us, that makes me feel better about my difference as well. So I think it's a gift that keeps on giving then.
During your time at EY, and you've sort of done great work at adding more inclusive items and the Unity program, has there been tracking done sort of internally to look at, now that there's a place where authenticity lives, that we've seen a marginal change in productivity?
Yeah.
Is that being tracked?
It is being tracked, but not at a very specific level, and especially Finland with the GDPR regulations, eye roll. You know, it's very hard for us to sometimes get data, but we do have our global People Pulse surveys that we take every quarter, and every quarter we ask the question about, you know, at work I feel free to be myself. And actually that has been our signature strength. It's the single kind of highest rated question that we have. It's kind of 90 something percent. So that is proof to me that there is an impact, and it's a very positive impact indeed.
And I would highlight something else, which is that right now 20% of Generation Z young adults are identifying as somehow queer. You cannot afford to alienate 20% of your future clients, your future employees, your future partners, if you're any business. So when people feel ready to be out at work, you know, we're laying the foundation for all those who are going to come after us as well. There's a whole group that's really not going to be quiet about their identity. They expect to be seen and recognized and included. And I think now that it's really beautiful to see, like, the demands are not just toleration, but full acceptance, full inclusion. That means we want to see people in the C-suite, CEO, CFO, CTO, whatever, who are actually queer. So that it's not just, yes, we support you, yes, we pay some money for Pride Week, but we have people who are queer in leadership roles, decision-making roles. And I think it's really taking it to a whole new level, and that's the new norm companies need to be ready for.
And I completely agree with that. And I always say about the Pride March here in Helsinki, where, you know, in a good year it's been 150,000 people, not all belonging to the community. So it's not an imperative just to anyone belonging to the community, but also the younger generation. They look for this when they're looking for employers, and really demand that there's a diverse population and good policies to support that.
So we've sort of touched on two things that kind of lead to my next two questions. One is this sort of overall acknowledgement of oneself, right? And LGBTQIA employees who aren't out at work report heightened workplace stress and mental health challenges. Right? What concrete measures can companies in general implement to better support the mental well-being of their LGBTQIA employees?
Well, if I can start, just one of the examples that I mentioned earlier about the education and that minority stress session. I don't think people necessarily even have heard of it or understand the different lived experiences. So I think that sort of awareness raising is critical. And then I think secondly, you do need to have mental health resources, I mean, for everybody, actually, but that are tailored. So, for example, we have one solution, which is our most lovable product in terms of benefits that we are buying for our employees, and it is a coaching service called ONTI, low threshold mental health coaching, where you can choose the package that suits your situation and your need. And you can have five sessions of 45 minutes online with a mental health professional. So kind of something that is out there for everybody, but you feel like it's purposely for you and for your needs, so customized.
Perfect. And what was the company again?
ONTI. Yeah.
Taking notes, yeah.
They didn't pay me to say that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, I was thinking back to my own coming out process. And one of the first things I did was actually hire a gay trainer where there was community. So we did group workouts with other gay people, and it was a safe space. And I think that's what you've done so well. You have all these official corporate things, but you also create a safe community space where people can talk within the community. And then also there's these outward facing events. And I think that's something that's really quite important for your mental health, is to feel like your life is integrated and whole. And also I think we have to recognize that mental health challenges with gay people often stem from the childhood or young adult traumas they might go through. They're much more likely to have been homeless, to have rejection from their closest family members. And that, of course, has knock-on effects in your mental health in later years. So like you said, having those mental health resources there, so they don't need to self-identify to get them, is really actually quite key.
And we have a global well-being strategy at EY, and I really like it for many reasons, but one of the reasons is that it's based on 4 different areas of well-being: the usual, physical, and mental, but then there's also social and financial. So we really recognize the power of networks, as you said, and community, and actively encourage those in EY. And it's never a top-down thing. It's always a bottom-up where people get together and decide that this is what they want to do together. So that's a very good point.
So we've mentioned role models earlier and underrepresentation in leadership roles. And so across the world, right, there's arguably notable underrepresentation of LGBTQIA plus individuals in leadership roles. So how, more specifically, can Finnish companies spearhead change and foster LGBTQIA plus talent into these positions? And what are the tasks of companies to promote an inclusive environment so that these initiatives are not just sort of pinkwashing?
Well, I can talk about what we've got and what we have done. And we actually have an EMEA LGBT network for our partners. So these are our senior people, and that's a way for them to come together and talk about kind of what are the things that they see in the organization that perhaps needs changing and needs focus on. So I think that's a very, very good thing to do, is to offer a platform and a forum, and it's also for allies. So it's not exclusive. But that's kind of where these are, like I said, very senior people, so they have visibility to some of the biggest challenges that we have with this.
Yeah, I think one thing people overlook is actually that, for me, a lot of this starts from the recruitment point, not even necessarily the onboarding or once you're working for the company, but do people in the community already know this company is affirming, this company is an ally, this company actually puts money towards our causes? Right, so when you're a company and you choose to donate to some kind of queer organization, publicize it, right? It's great if the money goes there, but it's even better if that is put out there into the community so people know this organization supports this. And the same goes for lobbying, political organizations. I'm also American. Back home, there's a lot of rollback of gay rights. And, Disney recently, for example, paid a huge price for their support of their queer employees and all their queer fans. And it's very funny because it's a very conservative company and it's also super queer. So those things can sit together, right? And that really opened my mind to how this can look. They actually did pay a big price, but on the other hand, they've now got an even more loyal, queer community supporting their products and their brand.
I think you're absolutely right in that the days of sitting on the fence are over. And I think, and in fact, there's EY research in everything, by the way, but there is something about how most people, I think it was in the 70%, they really expect organizations to take a stance in various issues that are touching society. So very important.
So for the last few questions, I kind of want to switch gears a little bit. So I personally have this innate belief that 95% of people walking the planet are good, right? Of course, there's 5%, but for the 95% that want to support and create spaces where authenticity thrives, and I want to touch a bit on allyship. I know that not everyone in the audience today is part of the community, but want to know more about how to support their colleagues. So in the context of the workplace, how do you define allyship for the community? And what are some actionable steps non-queer colleagues can take to ensure that they're genuinely supporting rather than just sympathizing with their queer colleagues?
And this is a topic close to my heart. And have done a bit of thinking around the topic. And I think it does start with the self-awareness. And understanding some of the concepts of unconscious bias and of privilege and things like that. So you do need to kind of take a hard look at yourself to see where you stand on these things. And yeah. I think that's the most important thing, but keeping the education and the curiosity open, and then actively. It's actually not the easiest thing to be an ally. Sometimes the people who have something to say don't dare to say to the member of the community, but then go for the ally. So what you do need to be able to do is have these conversations and be able to hear people out, learn from them, and kind of make something good from that.
So Jeremy, what is an ally in your point of view?
I mean, for me, it's someone who actually takes some kind of concrete action. It could be as simple as if you have a colleague who's in the community, invite them and their partner for a meal like you would anyone else. Just so they know it's okay to bring my partner. Also at a more institutional level, I think that, again, being very clear that at work we are going to make mistakes and it is okay to fail, but let's keep the communication open. I think there's sometimes backlash to these efforts, especially the kind of unconscious bias training can sometimes have a backlash component. We need to explain to people that it's okay to feel confused, even threatened by some of the things we're talking about, or uncomfortable. That's human, to be uncomfortable when presented with something new. And it doesn't make you bad, and it doesn't make you a homophobe, but let's have a conversation, with people you feel comfortable with. And so I think the allyship is a partnership where those of us who are part of the community need to accept that people might make mistakes or ask us things we're uncomfortable with. And we need to give some kind of degree of grace, like you said, assume they're a good person, so that they don't then have their defenses go up and feel like, I can't be honest, I can't be... Because one of the things I hear a lot of complaints on from all the other guys who assume I'm also a straight guy is, I can't even talk at work anymore. I can't tell a girl she's pretty. I can't make this joke anymore that I used to make, Well, no, you can't. But now you have an opportunity to be better.
I mean, we also don't throw our poop out the window.
Yeah, we don't do lots of things anymore.
Times change.
Exactly. And to help them see this as a good thing, Yeah.
I was just thinking about the ability to kind of walk in somebody else's shoes, and I always throw my husband under the bus in these sort of things, but he's very happy for me to do that. And in that picture, actually, taken in 2019, it was also his first Pride, and And he sort of started saying this thing, I'm gay for a day. And first I was like a little bit upset. I'm like, God, how patronizing or whatever. But then I actually thought, no, like, you've got it. That's exactly what it's about. Like, you are starting to understand what it feels, and kind of making different connections that you would normally make by participating. So anytime I'll take the gay for a day now for experiencing the experience of others.
Yeah, I mean, that sort of leads, though, into the over-allyship, right? Where one may be walking in experiences, or they think that they may have an experience, but not really. Maybe I get asked this very often: is what can I do? What questions can I ask? And I often sort of say, well, anything that you would ask yourself. Are if someone is transitioning, you don't ask when they're going to have their top surgery, right? Probably not would you go to yourself and ask yourself such a question. And so there is an instance of being overly inquisitive to the point of, and what do we feel about that? Yeah. I see. Yeah, eyes are really big.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a problem. I think like one of the easiest things to ask yourself when you want to be an ally is just, what circle am I in this person's life? And what would I ask some other person in this exact same circle? Like, the closer you are, the more intimate the questions can be. But if this is not like my close relative or very dearest friend, I wouldn't ask them these questions. So it's kind of simple in a way. Just use a bit of empathy, in that sense. Like you said, walking around someone's shoes.
Yeah, and I was kind of going back to my coaching training. And coaching is actually not about asking questions, but it's about listening and empathy. And then that kind of gives the other person the opportunity to choose, where do I want to go with this? And or if not, but at least you're open and welcoming if they want to share something. Yeah.
And there's one more point I would make, which is it's really important, and this actually goes for other groups as well, minority groups, to not invalidate someone's experience. So for example, when I say I came out professionally, I got 70% less work from one of my clients this year. Now, if I was a straight man, I wouldn't have to wonder, did I lose this business because I'm straight? But as a gay person, I have to ask myself that question. Why did I suddenly lose business? They're doing just as much work. Why are they no longer using my services? I had great ratings from everyone who did my class, right? Now, a well-intentioned person can hear me say this and say, oh, are you sure that's what happened? Well, I can't know 100% because I don't have a machine to read their mind, but I can know what the stats are and I can know what happened in my own life, right? And this goes for any minority group, like men shouldn't doubt women when they talk about their experiences in the workplace, or people of color, or whatever it might be, immigrants, right? It's just about trusting that person's experience and validating, okay, I hear you.
Yeah. I have about 20 more questions on allyship, but not 20,000 hours, right? So I'm going to finish with one more. So active listening, as you mentioned, and education are often the first step toward understanding. So what resources or strategies would you recommend for non-queer colleagues seeking to deepen their knowledge and awareness of LGBTQIA experiences and challenges? Because at some point, the onus has to be removed, right, from the minority group to teach all the time. So are there resources that you have found valuable to sort of share?
Yeah, I mean, go on LinkedIn, start typing out queer, LGBT, and start seeing what pops up. You'll see groups like Out and Equal, Out Leadership, Trevor Project, all kinds of really important advocacy groups that already have kind of kits and resource packs and everything kind of there for you as a starting point. And then from there, I think, like you were saying, once you've got the basics, then you find how does this fit in our company culture? And you put in the work to really customize it and make it personal, make it yours, tailor it. But yeah, it really starts with do what you would always do. Google, search, get some resources, watch some YouTube channels from queer creators. And again, I think it's very important where possible to do this in organizations that are actually led by other queer people, rather than having people talk about other people.
And I mean, this may seem like a banal example, but it's really worked for me. So during Helsinki Pride Week, the YLE news channel or a TV channel, they actually curate a lot of LGBTQIA plus content. And you know, like I said, watching a film did more than several sessions in a formal setting. So almost like finding what interests you, and if you're into art or if you're into music, and kind of having that multidisciplinary approach to it, I think is a great way to start as well.
And RuPaul's Drag Race. That's a joke for my queer friends in the audience. Okay, we're sort of running out of time, so we're gonna open this to one, maybe two questions if there's a question in the audience. Oh, come on! I promised them at least one. There we go.
All right, I'll bite. So, I've been here for over 25 years, and I do come from the other side of the planet. It has been my observation that this country is a lot more private than most of the West tends to be. It's not just that you don't come out, it's just that you don't talk about your family life at all. You never go out for a drink with your colleagues. You never mention what you did on the weekend. Nobody asks what you did on your weekend. The typical pattern is that you might mention as a by the way, after maybe 2 years of knowing your colleague, that, yeah, we just spent the weekend in Spain, and my partner will apparently have to get their testicle cancer fixed. And wait, you're gay? And oh, okay, and that was it. So I wouldn't draw conclusions about whether it's a problem with coming out as much as this is a very private country overall.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And my kind of strategy there is I am 100% Finnish, according to my DNA test, by the way. But having lived outside of Finland for more than half of my life, I'm a changed person, and I'm sort of I share. I maybe overshare, but that's kind of my choice, and I feel really comfortable about that. But also realize that people are very different, and they can sort of pitch their level of comfort.
Yeah, and this reminds me, I saw a post recently on LinkedIn from a company I really respect that works on company culture. And they were saying something like, you know, when you do these DEI initiatives, we shouldn't force people to do things, and we should just take a neutral approach where people are not identifying anything about themselves. I was like, hold on a second, like, explain to me how this is supposed to work, because then the default is going to be that the dominant group will automatically be an advantage. No, we actually need to have these uncomfortable conversations. So yes, this is how it is in Finland. It doesn't mean how it will always be. Finland has to get people from outside. Finland, of course, is a place that's alive and evolving. So I think it's fair to say that we can start to have a different type of workplace culture. And if we start being inclusive from the beginning, maybe since we're starting from kind of ground zero, Finland can be a role model at some point for queer inclusion at the office.
But that neutrality is really damaging, though.
Yes,
right? Because if you're not allowed to be your authentic self at work, then you're also not allowed to be your authentic self when you're not at work, right? So then you're in the closet 24 hours a day. Because what happens if I run into my colleague at the grocery store with my husband? Am I now saying this is my badminton partner? You know, so that there's utter damage in. Yeah, listen. We're gonna have a cocktail hour where we can continue this conversation individually. So let's give a huge round of applause to Jeremy and Katariina.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much. Thank you. I'm gonna stay on stage.
Thanks.
And so just so you know, this is not just a popcorn kind of night, right? There'll be food being passed as soon as we get through this next part. But if you haven't noticed, there is 4 pieces of art that are on the walls in the reception area this evening. These pieces are the work of a 21-year-old artist who has primarily worked with mediums such as painting, video, sculpture, and installation, and has also done projects using 360 videos, AR, as well as applied fine arts. At the root of many of their works, there is an ongoing conversation with themselves on how they exist within dynamics like relationships, spatiality, land, and culture. They have recently graduated with a bachelor's in media and art from Tampere University of Applied Sciences and are continuing their studies at Aalto and Aalborg Universities, studying a Nordic Master in Visual Studies and Art Education. So please give a huge welcome to Gabriella. Come on. We get to hug. Okay.
Hello. Thank you everyone for coming today. So as Joey said, these are 4 of my paintings, and I'm a recent BA graduate, so I'm also quite young. So I maybe don't have as much work experience as maybe most of you here. So I am the Gen Z coming into your workplace, and I am also, I was very happy and getting a little bit emotional seeing, queer people in the workplace, and that had come out, and it was emotional for me hearing your experiences, and you're here, and that could be me in 20 30 years, and where am I going to be, and what are my experiences going to be like, what's the future going to be like for my generation. And that's also what this project is about. So for my BA thesis, I interviewed 24 queer nomadic people from southern Finland, primarily Tampere and Espoo, Helsinki area. And by nomadic, I mean like many had mixed nationalities. I'm half American, half Finnish, but I've also lived in Sweden and Canada, and moving around a lot. And a lot of them also had very, unique experiences during their early adulthood, their childhood. And basically, my BA thesis was exploring how has their own queerness as well as nomadic identities, how have they been parallel with one another. Because, for example, many noted that if they hadn't moved to a certain country or hadn't moved away from a certain country, they wouldn't have been able to explore that part of themselves. And I think this is very impactful for when we're talking about the workplace, because how do we also accommodate and adjust and think about in terms of queerness as well as your nomadic identity? How is the queer immigrant within your workplace not only centralizing this, maybe more, privileged of the white, gay, Finnish man, but also, how is, the maybe non-binary immigrant experience, how are they experiencing your workplace? How are you creating space for them? And a lot of these experiences, it was a lot of variety. A lot of them, they did have, very more dark and emotional connections with their family. And I'm very privileged to have my family here today. But I think there's a lot of need for these kind of conversations, not necessarily in a prying way or, getting into your trauma at work. But like you said, how do we create these human connections and embrace empathy and have these conversations at work and for the future, really, how do we embrace empathy and our experiences. Maybe we can go with our video.
I would say that maybe even the most important thing is like movies and series and this kind of like representation in like these types of media, because I started thinking about this and I realized that just relating to a character, for example, that might seem like a very obvious thing for many people, and that's kind of like taken for granted. But then when you are part of a minority, or maybe you have a disability, or maybe you're this mix of different cultures, you realize that you can't really ever fully relate to most characters that you see in like movies and series and stuff. So I feel like this is something that has helped me a lot, not only with my sexual identity, but just exploring who I am as a person in general, and with a lot of different things as well. Noticing that, okay, this character in this movie lives the kind of life that I would want to live, or this character, I don't know, acts in some way how I act, especially if it's something that other people might feel like is like weird or wrong in some way. Definitely there's this, like I said, we're not, for example, taught how to be in queer relationships, so you kind of have to like educate yourself around these things and learn like as you're just doing stuff, and yeah, so I feel like there's a lot of things that you kind of have to like start over and experience again that maybe others then have done when they were like a lot younger, for example, and some things that you might like want to experience again or whatever it could be. But definitely, you know, even just with these like stereotypes of like when you're like social norms, when you should do which things and with whom and all of that, definitely you start like questioning these more as well.
My grandma is also mixed race. It always been interesting, or it always been a thing that she would explicitly tell me how good looking my hair is, how nice it feels. And back then it was not as curly, it was really, really straight. And she would love to comb it. And then she would comb it and it would come back, because so straight it would just be blown with whatever wind. I always like to have one of these, and funny enough I find it on the streets or something, so it may be just very random object, but nice that I have at ease to find connection to those memories. Also, it tells a lot about the struggle of being mixed race and the whole phenomena that a person with very curly hair, well, basically afro hair, or how can I say that in English, reproducing this structural racism of self-hate and loving the grandchild straight hair. It tells about that mixed with love, mixed with this very, very nuclear reference for me of love. And it gets really complex. Like, I cannot just differentiate that love is this very pure thing, and no, sometimes it comes along with structural racism and then the same black hair here in the context I am at the moment surely is an object of violence from others. So I guess this comb, and I mean I'm gonna give it because I have many others, reminds me, thus it symbolizes how complex things are, and that queerly one can look at love and find not the most pure, not the most agreeable, romanticized idea of love, but it comes multi-layered with not so lovely things. Within the context of being loved by your grandma, I still keep it as very dear, but also reminding myself that this long hair is an object, and it's part of the agency I try to carry on, navigating these different layers of identities and norms and expectations.
Let's give a huge round of applause for Gabriella. Thank you so much. They'll be here today to answer any questions about the artwork during the cocktail reception. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, hey, so stay with me for 2 more minutes, okay? There's food, there's drinks. I've got extra drink tickets if I can give it to you. Oh, that's where the smiles came from. Whoa, the eyes got so bright. Okay, so as I mentioned at the beginning of the community, or of the event, we're a community and a playground for local change makers to come together, to share ideas, to do exactly what we did today, right? To bring a topic to light, but not only just to talk about it, but actually to put plans into action. On September 21, we're going back into the metaverse. This time we're discussing mixed reality. So imagine a world where our physical surroundings blend seamlessly with digital elements, enabling us to live and work in spaces that are enhanced by technology. So come learn and experience some hands-on AR and VR demonstration thanks to the Helsinki XR Center. So there'll be some cool things to sort of experience there. To end the month, our popular tech series is going to return. This monthly event looks into various tech industries. On the 28th of September, we're going to turn our attention to fintech, but more specifically open banking. So open banking is revolutionizing the financial world, offering unparalleled opportunities for innovation, collaboration, and customer empowerment. But as we know, with great potential comes complex challenges. So come deep dive with us into the fast evolving landscape of open banking. On October 3rd, our very popular monthly afterwork is gonna come back. This month's theme will be focused on founder stories. So come be inspired by local founders who will share their journeys, hear the good, the bad, and all the in-between. And then on October 10th, Hired returns, with Hired closing doors or opening opportunities, decoding Finland's strategy for international talent. So in quotations here, Finland will be the most interesting place to invest by 2031, a worthy and ambitious goal set out by the new Finnish government, formed in June 2023. Epicenter Helsinki and AmCham Finland are joining together to ask how the government's approach to international talent supports this vision. The panel of government officials and business leaders will discuss 4 main ideas. How will the local entrepreneurial system be impacted? How will foreign direct investment be impacted? How will individual people be impacted? And what will the overall impact be on Finland? This is definitely one not to miss. Especially if you attended protests in the last few weeks. So, hey, thank you all so much for being here today. Did you all have a good time? Yeah. Yes? Okay. So, food is gonna come, the music is gonna jam, we're gonna network and have a great time. So thank you all so much. Thank you.